Welcome to Body Smart Book Club. We're going to be doing episode 6 today. We're here at the Body Smart Physical Therapy Clinic in South Ogden. I'm Mark and this is Melody.
Hello.
And we are continuing to go through 80-20 running by Matt Fitzgerald. Today we're going to be talking about not running, cross-training in fact. We'd love to hear what your favorite forms of cross-training are, what you do each week. So go ahead and put that in the comments below, and like I said, we'd love to hear about that. So we're going to talk about 7 different ways to cross-train that Matt recommends. Obviously there's a ton of different ways we can cross-train, so many different activities. We're not going to be able to touch on them all, but we'll touch on those 7, as well as talking about how much each of those transfers to racing, how convenient they are, and how enjoyable they are, because that is important in choosing our workouts, right? That's one of the reasons that we choose our workouts, right? It's something that we love to do, and so being able to find enjoyment in that, I think, is really important. So the things that we're going to go through are cycling, both indoor and outdoor ellipticals, pool running, slideboarding, uphill treadmill walking, and anti-gravity treadmill. I feel like I'm like reading the list of prizes on The Price is Right or something like that. So let's jump right into cycling. So cycling is one of my favorite forms of cross-training. I love it. Love the speed. I think that's one of my favorite things, right?
You're a pretty big cyclist.
I just love it. And I don't know, there's something about just going up and down hills at fast speeds, and it's just, so I love it. It's a really accessible form of cross-training. So obviously you can go from your kind of like huffy bikes at Walmart all the way up to your super expensive triathlon bikes. But there's a broad range of great prices in between, and something that you can get for pretty cheap and do regularly. It's nice because it's low impact. That's really the main benefit that we're going to talk about today, is that you can get a similar motion to running, right? But without that repetitive high impact loads that you get through running. Exactly.
The only con with biking is, well, you have to have a bike. And if funds are low, then that's an issue. Also, indoor biking is not very fun.
Boring. I know. I have a bike trainer, and I'm terrible at using it in the winter because, exactly that reason.
Unless you're one of those people who's totally cool, doing the indoor bike and just watching a movie or something.
It's true. Next is our ellipticals.
So that's biking. Okay, so ellipticals. So we have indoor ellipticals, which most of you are probably familiar with, and if you're a runner, you probably have been on an elliptical before. A lot of you guys probably aren't familiar with their outdoor ellipticals. I wasn't familiar with this until I read this book. I was like, whoa, that's awesome.
Just like that. The actual reaction.
Okay, so we'll just talk about an indoor elliptical first. First of all, it transfers really, really well to running. It's low impact, so it's great if you have a mild injury. The con to this is it is boring as heck. No one wants to be on elliptical for me. Like, after 20 minutes, I'm done with it. Unless you're one of those people who likes to watch a movie or
read a book or something like that.
Book, yeah.
I don't think I can coordinate reading a book and doing the elliptical, but you might be better than me.
I've tried that once, and I'm like, how do people do this?
Right.
Can't see
any
of the words.
Special kind.
Yeah. Outdoor elliptical, so same thing. It transfers really well to running. It's low impact, and it's a lot more fun than an indoor elliptical because it's like you can just ride anywhere you want on it. The only cons to this one is it's really pricey. We were looking them up online.
We were very surprised by how pricey.
The cheapest model we saw in Elliptico was like $1,200. So, I mean, maybe for some of you that's not an issue at all. Just go get an Elliptico.
Oh, yeah.
And also you want to make sure you live in an area where the shoulders on the road are really big, because it is a pretty massive machine.
Definitely. We're lucky here in the Salt Lake area, right? We have Legacy Trail and all of its tie-ins, through Salt Lake, Layton, Ogden thing. That's a really nice place to go, right? You don't have to worry about traffic, and a safe place to ride.
Next one we have pool running.
Take it away, Mark. Yeah. No, so pool running, I love any work in the pool, right? It's great through any phase of training, especially useful in rehab. Again, one of the big things is it's low impact. So when we're about to chest line in the pool, it takes about 50% of our weight off, which is significant. And so if you're dealing with an injury or just some soreness after a few runs, it's a great way. You can hop in the pool and get your workout in, even add an weighted vest to make it a little bit easier to run in the pool. Again, very specific to running. You're doing the same motions. One of the other things that I really like is that you have the hydrostatic pressure of the water. So if you're having any swelling, in your knees, your ankles, wherever, it can be helpful with that. And then another thing is that the resistance that water provides. And so the faster that you're moving your arms, your legs in the water, the more resistance that's going to provide. So it can actually be a really decent workout, which is nice. The cons are not everyone has access to a pool, and again, the low impact, which is a good thing, but also if that's all you're doing, you lose some of the benefits, including bone density and some of the other adaptations that your body has to that repetitive high impact training.
Right. So pool running is great if you have a stress fracture and you need 100% of your body weight lifted. Another thing, I don't remember if you told me this, but someone was telling me about their experience running in a pool, and they said that they were injured, so all they did was run in a pool, and then as soon as they got on the ground and started running again, they started blistering like crazy because they lost all the calluses on the bottom of their feet. So that's another thing to think about. The next one is slideboarding. So slideboarding is basically a big plastic rectangle, a big board that you put on the ground, and then you wear these little booties, and then you slide back and forth.
So weird. It's like you slide on a board or something.
You just slide on this thing like you're skating. The pros here is it's relatively cheap if you compare it to a swimming pool or an elliptico. The prices we saw were roughly $150, $200. It's also really convenient to pack. You can just roll up the board, roll up the booties, stick it in your backpack, stick it in your travel suitcase, and you can pull it out and do it anywhere. It's also a great aerobic exercise. It's really great for strengthening your lateral musculature, so the outside of your legs and your hips. And this is great for runners because typically runners have pretty weak hips from all the forward motion we do. We don't tend to focus on the outside of our legs very often. So that's a great pro. A con to this is it doesn't transfer to running very well because you are going back and forth instead of forward like you do when you're running. And also, no one is going to do this for longer than 10 minutes.
I would last maybe 5.
Like. Yeah.
Two minutes.
You're not going to get a good solid hour workout on the slideboard.
Yeah, but again, still a great alternative. Mm-hmm. Next is uphill treadmill walking. Super simple, right? The pattern is very similar to running, right? From walking and then running. So you're going to get that. The other nice thing is that at slower speeds with higher incline, you can still get a fairly good amount of intensity from this workout. So it's really nice in that respect. Again, not as high impact as running itself would be. Some of the cons are, oh my goodness, like running on a treadmill can be boring enough, but now you're like just walking slowly uphill, like just, you might die.
You might, so careful.
Yeah, we should little warning bar there. You might die if you do this. Not a bad alternative. Obviously, it's nice to have the treadmill specifically so you can control the incline. But this is something that you could do, like if you really want to try some uphill walking, you can take it to the trails. Obviously, you're not going to know the exact grade, and there's going to be ups and downs. But I still think, right, to get some of the same training benefits in and not such a boring package, you can definitely transfer that to the trails.
For sure. Honestly, that's probably what I would do.
Me too.
And the next one,
anti-gravity treadmill running.
So we saved the best one for last. We've had a lot of experience on an anti-gravity treadmill, and we both have had very positive experiences on it.
Yeah.
We also have put a lot of our own athletes on this treadmill, and they've benefited a lot from it, so we're all about it. If I'm going to do cross-training, this is what I'm going to do. So what it is it's a treadmill, and over the treadmill there's this big metal fixture.
A cage, if you will.
A cage. We put you in a cage and a harness. And then we strap you up to the cage, and what it does is it unweights you. So it takes 25 pounds to 60 pounds.
Yeah.
Depending on how severe your injury is and how much you want to be unweighted. That's a really nice thing about it, is you can unweight yourself as much as you need to. What's nice about it is you don't lose any of the adaptations you got from the high impact repetitive running, because you're still getting that impact, but just not as much. Out of all the cross training we've talked about and out of all the other cross training in the world, this is probably the one that transfers to running better than any of the other ones, because you're still running just without the high impact.
Yeah, just like if you were on the moon, but not quite as good.
Yes.
I don't know, I've never been, so
Well,
I guess I can't say that for sure.
When you strap yourself into, the double harness where it really unweights you, that kind of
That's
does
true.
feel
That
like you're
one's
on
fun.
the moon.
The new age moon shoes, right?
Yeah. So we love the anti-gravity treadmill. And you've had some pretty positive experiences, right?
It's actually been super nice. So for years I've had a lot of problem with my ankles, injured them a lot when I was younger, and just not great motion in them. which has made running really difficult at times and somewhat painful. And so the nice thing about this is that I'm able to get in the running, get in the miles, but with that lower impact. And so I'm not getting that impingement in the front of my ankle like I used to. I don't end my runs and be like, oh, this is super uncomfortable. And so it's been kind of a game changer for me in terms of being able to run. And I know it's been that way with several of our athletes that have been able to use that and rehabbing from their injuries. And then just getting it, not only rehabbing from injuries, but just when they need to get more miles in, but they want to do it with a little bit less wear and tear on their body.
Actually, one of my athletes I'm working with that we're both working with right now, he sprained his ankle, and 1 week after he sprained his ankle, it was a bad sprain. He was able to hop on the anti-gravity treadmill and run 1 week after spraining his ankle.
Which is awesome, right?
Yeah.
Like huge to be able to use that in rehab. So we love that tool. The nice thing about this one is it is not so cost prohibitive as some of the more expensive ones, right? The Ultra G. The Ultra G is really nice in terms of being able to unweight you, but it's typically only used in labs. Not a lot of clinics have it or use it unless they're research universities or things like that. And so, we have it as a tool for any of our athletes to use.
With any package here, you get unlimited access to our gym and unlimited access to the Lightspeed lift anytime you want to use it. We do have to be real here and mention the cons. If you're from Ogden and you can come here and use it, awesome. But typically it is hard to find. Most likely you're not just gonna buy this for your home gym.
Yeah.
It's a little pricey, but again, we have it, so. Now that we have talked about 7 awesome forms of cross-training, let's talk just a little bit about why should we cross-train. Maybe you're a runner and you're listening to this and you're like, this is pointless, I don't need to cross-train. Do you want to tell them why they should cross-train?
Yes, because we said so. There's trust us. There's actually a lot of benefits to it. One is that when we have cross-training as a regular part of our schedule, it prepares us in the case of any injury. Obviously, our goal is to strengthen our bodies, to train in such a way that injuries aren't really an issue, right? We don't want to be jumping from injury to injury. We want to be training in such a way that our bodies are able to make those adaptations so that we're able to stay on the road and keep doing what we love. But sometimes injuries come. And so having that cross-training to fall back on as a form of exercise that you can do, that you adapted your body to, ends up being really great if there's any type of injury. Place that in your training. If you're aerobic fitness, some of those other adaptations that you might otherwise lose if you don't have any plan to fall back on. So we really love it for that reason. Another reason is that being able to work your body in different ways, right? With running, we're always having the same pattern. Like Melly mentioned before with the slideboard, runners' hips often aren't as strong, right? Because there's not that lateral training. And so just getting more different types of training that move your body in slightly different ways, that cause it to have to make slightly different adaptations, just makes your body more adaptable. It allows it to handle variation better than just training in one mode alone. Those are some of the reasons that I really love cross-training.
Those are some really good points. And this is basically what Mark said, but to give you an example, say you are one of those runners who doesn't cross-train, you're running 100 miles a week, you might think that you'll never get injured, but honestly, if you're a runner, it's inevitable. You will get injured. If you do get injured to a point where all you can do is cross-train and you go from straight running to all of a sudden straight biking all day, every day at the same amount of time you were running, your risk for injury skyrockets because your body is not used to that. And then boom, you have another injury and that stinks. So that's another reason that I personally feel like you should throw in at least one cross-training day a week just so you have that fallback. And it's also good for you mentally if you're one of those runners who like, this is my life, this is who I am, all of a sudden you get an injury, you can't run anymore, and you're like, who am I? It's going to be a lot easier for you mentally to transfer over to a bike.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. I think last, just as a nice recovery method, last week we talked about having recovery runs in there, and that's nice, but sometimes it's nice to just do something other than running, right? Change it up. And so having these activities in a low impact and low intensity way ends up being really nice. And that kind of brings us to our next point of how do we want to include this as part of that 80-20 plan.
So you should always count cross-training towards your 80-20 regimen. So again, 80% 80% low intensity, 20% high intensity, and your cross training should always be part of your 80% in low intensity. Your high intensity should always be running, unless you're suffering from like Achilles tendonitis or a hamstring strain where increased speed actually makes those injuries worse. That's when the light speed lift comes in handy. I actually have left Achilles tendonitis, which has been bothering me for a long time, and I've done a lot of my high intensity on the light speed, which has been really nice.
And the big reason for that is that it allows you to do that more high intensity training in the race specific way, right? You're getting that high intensity in running in that form that you're looking for. Dust in my throat. I apologize. Oh man, that killed me. Whoa! We're good. I'm still alive. So great for recovery, great for alternative, and then allows us to do more of that high impact activity in that race specific way. So that's what we have to say on cross training. Again, a great thing to include as part of your training plan. We recommend it that everyone put it as part of their training plan to give them those benefits that we talked about. So that wraps up our episode 6.
Again, we'd love to know what your favorite form of cross training is. Go ahead and comment below. Also, if you have a video of you on your slideboard or an elliptical, we would love to see that.
Definitely love to go too.
Yes. Oh, okay. One more thing that I wanted to mention that we didn't mention is if you're feeling yucky, if your body's starting to break down, it's okay to replace an entire run with a cross training session.
Yeah.
If you're supposed to run 10 miles one morning, say roughly 2 hours, it's okay to hop on the bike for 2 hours instead.
Okay, awesome.
Great.
That's our last little tidbit. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Oh.